Today we're going to be looking at what you now need to do in order to actually start processing the various things in JobBag in regard to JobKeeper. We're going to look at a number of scenarios and we're going to actually show you some live examples of how to do that, and also obviously deal with any questions that you have got. So I'm going to get started so that we can crack on. In all things, when all else fails, always make sure that you go to the ATO website, because as things change, or as they start doing or providing more detailed information or refine things, that is always going to be the best place to go. Here's a link that is here, but if you just go to the ato.gov.au website, it will turn around and give you absolutely anything that you need to know or see, etc. They've got more things coming up every day. They've got links to everything. Even if you just go to the main website and click on here, it will make a really big difference, and it will always be the most accurate information. Anything that we tell you is always going to be just referring to their information, but we'll just put it into terms hopefully that makes it relevant for the way in which you're using JobBag. Bear with me while I just get rid of other software which is going to turn around and interrupt our sessions. Okay, so the number one thing is that as of Monday, the application process is going to be available on the ATO website, and as part of getting ready for that, you're going to need to send to all of your employees who you're going to have as part of the JobKeeper process this nomination form. Again, the link is here, or you can just do a search on the ATO website and you'll be able to find that form. Basically, your employees need to complete the form and give it back to you, because that then gives you the authority to claim the JobKeeper Subsidy on their behalf. The main thing being that an employee, if they're employed by multiple businesses, can only claim the JobKeeper Subsidy through one employer. They can't get it from multiple employers, so that's why that's quite important. Right, excuse me. So once you've got the nomination form back and you are going through the registration process on the ATO website, you're then going to have to communicate a number of things to the ATO as part of this process. And you're going to be able to do that within JobBag itself. In simple terms, it's as simple as this: that number one, you're going to update their employment details in JobBag. So you're going to create a new employment record. We'll show you how to do that. Part of that is going to require you to put in what's called a JobKeeper start code, and I'll explain that and show you how to set that up as well. Once you've done that, you're then going to need to create a payslip, which will record the details of the first period that you are claiming the JobKeeper Subsidy for, and that will get transmitted up to the ATO via the normal single touch payroll process. You'll even be able to do a payslip for zero if you need to do that, like if you've already paid people and you just need to transmit the JobKeeper start code, you'll be able to do a payslip for zero and upload that. Once your registration process is complete, then what will happen is around the 15th of May, that's when you'll receive your JobKeeper Subsidy payment from the ATO for the 2 fortnights, as they call it, that took place in April. And the same process will apply in early May. You'll get, in early June, you will turn around and do a lodgement on the ATO website. And once you've done that lodgement, you'll receive the subsidy payment for the pay periods in May, etc., etc., and it will flow on through there. Okay. Basically, there's a few things that you are going to need to have set up in JobBag to ensure that you can process this correctly and record this correctly, and I'll take you through and show you how to do all of that now. Some of those things, though, you aren't going to need until later. You'll see that there's mention here of this thing called a JobKeeper finish item. If this goes all the way through to the end, you won't even need to use that. But if somebody leaves your employment during the time that you're claiming the subsidy, you'll need to put a JobKeeper finish item on their employment record and submit that to the ATO. It's all easy to do. If you're doing top-ups for anybody who is actually earning less than $1,500, you will need the JobKeeper top-up allowance set up in there, and I'll show you how to do the start item right now. Oops, didn't want that to go backwards. So let's go and have a look at these payroll items. Now, for those of you who were here for the original one, you may recall that under payroll, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger so that you can hopefully see it a bit clearer. Under payroll, we went through creating a couple of things. One of the things that we were talking about was you needed to have a payroll item to say that, to record the fact that if somebody was being stood down, so they weren't being paid at all, they still needed to get a pay slip because they were still accruing annual leave and personal leave entitlements. Right, so that was the reason we had that one. That needs to be in there. If you are reducing salaries but still paying people and employing people, then you should have this type of payroll item in there to record the fact that you have reduced somebody's salary and by what amount, because you need to record that in their employment details. Now, the other one that I've got here is called allowances for special circumstances, and that one is where I've gone and put all of the JobKeeper related items. So the JobKeeper Subsidy is the one we discussed last time, that if you have people who are earning less than $1,500 per fortnight, that you would need to top up their fortnightly salary or weekly salary or monthly salary by a subsidy amount. Now this is the item that you would use to actually do that. You'll notice that it is taxable, so PAYG is still applied to any JobKeeper top-up amount, but any JobKeeper top-up amount does not attract employer superannuation unless you choose to do it. The final thing is that you must have this code to say JobKeeper as the allowance type, so that it gets reported correctly in STP and for other purposes down the track, because it is going to be part of their income for tax purposes when they turn around and lodge their tax return for the 2019-20 financial year, and again for next year. The item that you are going to need to have in here is a wonderful item like this. And it's got more numbers that you can poke the proverbial stick at, but it's actually pretty easy to do. The simple way of doing it is actually just to turn around, clone the JobKeeper Subsidy one, and put in these details. It is very, very important that these codes are set up absolutely accurately. So this is the absolute critical bit. And please contact us and we will do a team viewer session with you to make sure that you are putting these in correctly. This code that I've got here is saying that this employee is eligible to get the subsidy from the first fortnight in the JobKeeper term. So the JobKeeper Subsidy term starts from the 30th of March and is going forward until September. So if somebody is eligible to receive the JobKeeper Subsidy in that first fortnight that they're talking about, then this code needs to be in here. You may only have people who qualify from the second fortnight or the third fortnight or whatever it may be. If you do, then you will have other codes in there will be FN02 or FN03. I don't want to go into the detail of that in here. Just make sure you talk to us and we will help you set these things up absolutely correctly and make sure that that you know how to apply these in the employment records for your employees. All right, but just be aware that you will have that And once it's set up, bang, it's real easy. And down the track, you may require what's called a JobKeeper finish code. Very similar type of thing. As I mentioned earlier, that will be used if somebody leaves your employment during the JobKeeper subsidy period and you're claiming for them, then you'll need to put that on their employment record. If, however, you go all the way through the JobKeeper subsidy period and it just ends, you won't need to use this because they'll just stop the subsidy anyway. So this is only going to be required if somebody leaves during the JobKeeper subsidy, or when you guys stop claiming the JobKeeper subsidy because hopefully business has recovered and you don't need it anymore. So those are the two potential scenarios. All right. Just a reminder that if you have any questions, make sure that you type them into the chat feature within the TeamViewer app that you've got, and we will go from there. And one other thing I need to just do is do that for Liv. Okay. So they're the kinds and items that you need to turn around and have, so that's all good. So the steps that you need to take, anyone who's earning less than that $1,500 per fortnight, or the equivalent thereof, make sure you've done any top-up payments for them, because you must pass on to your employees the equivalent of $1,500 per fortnight where they haven't been earning that amount. All right, they must get at least $1,500 per fortnight. If somebody's earning more than $1,500 per fortnight, or the equivalent monthly thing or weekly thing, then you don't need to worry about a top-up because they're already earning that amount. It's only if they were earning less than that. You need to process a pay slip, as I said, even for $0, to record the fact that this employee that you're going to be claiming the subsidy for is eligible for the JobKeeper subsidy from a starting period. So that's that. If it's from the first fortnight, it'll be FN01. You need to submit that and upload that via STP prior to the 30th of April. In order to do all of this, or make sure that everything is happy and hunky-dory, we're going to be upgrading everyone who is on payroll to build 81012 to ensure that you can do all of this and do zero pay slips, and that it allows you to do the JobKeeper start codes. So be aware that in the next week we're going to be upgrading you to all of this. Once you got that, then you'll be able to do all of this process. So now let's talk about the JobKeeper subsidy scenarios. So the first scenarios deal with where an employee has been stood down, and there's two potential scenarios in regard to them being stood down. Either you're going to bring them back to work as a result of receiving the JobKeeper subsidy, or alternatively you won't be bringing them back because you don't have any work for them to do, but you are going to be passing on to them that subsidy. We'll take you through those two. We've got an employee who's actually paid more than the subsidy, but you've reduced their salary because of a downturn in business conditions. I'm going to show you the two ways that you can turn around and process that. One scenario being that you'll increase their salary as a result of the subsidy, and the other scenario where you're unable to increase their salary as a result of the subsidy. The key thing is you are required to pass on the subsidy where the employee is getting less than $1,500, but no fair, no foul. Some people's business conditions are such that the subsidy is just going to enable them effectively to stay in business. So there could be situations where you can pass it on. Great if you can, all the better. But just in case you're unable to, I'll give you both of those two scenarios. Then there's a scenario where if you're lucky you haven't had to reduce your employee's salary but you still qualify for the subsidy. How do you turn around and process that? And of course we've got the situation where your employees are paid less than the subsidy. How do you do the top up, and also make sure that you communicate the the JobKeeper start code to the ATO. So let's get into these examples. The first one in this instance, I'm saying that your employee qualifies, they were stood down and you decide to bring them back to work. Ginny, in this instance, that's what she was paid prior to COVID-19 being hit. She was stood down completely, so she didn't actually get paid in March, but you still processed a zero pay slip in March so that her annual leave or all her leave entitlements were accrued. Then say, okay, JobKeeper's come along, fantastic. We're going to therefore pass on to her the JobKeeper Subsidy for the month of April. And we're going to actually bring her back to work, right? So we're not just doing this as a top up, we're actually bringing her back to work. So let's turn around and show you how to do that. So the first thing is, if we go and have a look at Ginny and have a look at her employment details, what you will see is that I've said that back here on the 1st of April, we turned around and said, oh, I'm sorry, Ginny, we put in a before tax deduction, which was stand down, not pay, because we actually had to stand her down completely. So her whole $8,750, which is a normal salary, got removed and she didn't actually get paid for that month. Then we turned around and said, hey, as a result of this, I can bring you back, so therefore I can turn around and actually at least pay you something. So I've gone and created a new employment record for her, which says that I'm adjusting for the JobKeeper Subsidy. So instead of the before tax deduction being her salary reduction being 8,750, I've reduced that down to 5,500 because I know that I'm going to get the JobKeeper Subsidy, the monthly subsidy of 3,250. Now that is the average amount, and I'm presuming that, I'm working it on that basis that I'm going to get 3,250 the whole way through. So there is a way of, you could do it just for 3,000 because that's what you're going to get for most months, and you get $4,500 in August because there'll be 3 periods or 3 fortnights in July. But keeping it simple, I've decided to say, no, we're going to get it the whole time, 3,250, and away we go. So I've reduced the salary reduction to only 8,500, which means that she now has taxable salary of 3,250, normal PAYG applies, and she gets employer super contributions, and away we go. So once that's gone in, that's how I turn around and do that. The other thing though that I should also turn around and do as part of that is put in under taxable allowances this code JobKeeper Start FN01, which says that she is eligible for the subsidy right from the first fortnight. Notice that there is no value against that. It's just purely we're recording the fact that she is entitled to the subsidy from that date. And that means that when we turn around and process a payslip for her for April, now that was the first one. Well, actually, that was the first one that we did. So now I'm going to turn around and do a new payslip for her, dated today, and I'm going to say Ginny is now going to get paid, and I'm doing this again from the 1st of April for the month. And I know that she's already got all of this, but notice now, oops, did I not do that right? I apologise, what have I done? Jenny, oopsie. Jenny, what have I done to you? Jenny. 17th of April, I want that to be from, I'll just say, it should be the 1st of April though, because I did do it correctly, I know I did. Okay, so I've stuffed something up there in setting up this particular database, so bear with me. I actually want to just bring that in because if I had done this correctly, That's what I really wanted it to be. And I'll just change that back now to be the 1st till the 30th. That's fine, because you see how now it's bringing and saying, okay, her ordinary times earnings were her normal pay. She's got a salary reduction of $5,500. It's automatically pulling in the JobKeeper Start code, which we want to be part of this, and it's showing that she's now getting $3,250 in her monthly pay for this month, and normal super applies and PAYG applies. So when I turn around and save that, it'll come up with this wonderful thing that, hang on, warning Will Robinson, there's no amount has been entered for the JobKeeper Start, which is absolutely correct. We know that. There won't ever be an amount on that JobKeeper Start item, and that's fine. So I'm going to save that, and hey presto, that will be her payslip, or her real payslip for the month of April. I just had that from that previous example that we did a week and a half ago, or whenever it was, and that's what she will end up getting paid, and that's what will end up being transmitted to the ATO as part of the single touch payroll process. So that's the one where we've brought her back, and we're saying we're going to actually start paying her and transmitting that through to the ATO. So scenario 2 is your employee has been stood down, but you won't be bringing them back to work. You're just going to be paying them the subsidy. So in this instance, I said, okay, Olivia Scarlett, she had $12,000 as a monthly salary. She got stood down. We're applying for the subsidy this month. So we're now going to give her the top up for the month of April and thereon, at least for the time being. So when I go into Olivia Scarlett, you'll see that for her, I went and created a new employment details record to say from the 1st of April we're going to pay her the JobKeeper Subsidy, and what we have in here is the fact that her gross salary was $12,000. We have a before tax deduction because I'm not bringing her back, so it's just stand down, not paid, as opposed to just a salary reduction. So this is saying, someone we stood down completely. But as a taxable allowance, I'm saying she's getting the JobKeeper Subsidy for the full month of 3250, and I'm putting in the JobKeeper Start code to say that she is eligible for the subsidy from the first fortnight in the JobKeeper period. So I put all of those in. That becomes her employment record for her pays from this point onwards. And when I go back to my payroll, have I not done one for her? So nope, I haven't. So now I'm going to turn around and say I want to do my a pay slip for her from the 1st of April. Bang, thank you very much, and hey presto, it will come up with, there is her ordinary times earnings, the fact that she was stood down, so she's not being paid. We're paying her the subsidy, thank you very much, and she's eligible for the subsidy from the first fortnight in the JobKeeper Subsidy time frame. Ignore the PAYG on this. I don't have a TFN declaration in the system for her, hence it's deducting way too much PAYG under normal circumstances. But that's how easy it is. It says, hey Houston, you've already there's no amount on that. Yes, we know, thank you very much. So that will go through as normal. Okay, so that's how you do those two scenarios. Scenario 3 is this. We've actually still been employing this person, but we reduced their salary because you're now going to get the JobKeeper Subsidy. You're going to pay them, or you're going to increase their salary from this month. And in this circumstance, you'd say, whoops, hang on, that didn't need to go forward that fast. You may have already paid them their monthly salary. Right, so let's just say that for argument's sake you paid them on the 13th of the month. So what you will then do is you will do a top up for the increased salary that you are paying them, which is going to be in effect reimbursed by the JobKeeper Subsidy, and you're going to add in the JobKeeper Start code. So if we go wandering off to have a look at our dear friend Alan Bond, you'll see that here's his existing payslip for. Let me see if I can make that a bit bigger. I don't think I can make that bigger, no, unfortunately. That's his existing payslip for the month of April. So he was still on exactly the same thing. So if I now turn around and do a new payslip and say, okay, for our friend Mr. Bond, right, boom, thanks for coming. We're doing a payslip today, and I'm still going to say that it is for the period from the 1st of April to the 30th of April. Notice that when I turn around and do that, all I'm going to, hang on, did I actually set him up correctly? I thought Mr. Bond, where are you? Yeah, so I did put in place his thing to say from the 17th, let's come back to here, from the 1st of April, this is when we adjusted his hours and we said, we're now adding in the JobKeeper Subsidy, and we changed it that his salary reduction was now only $1,000, because previously, when we first reduced his time or reduced his salary, we said, hey, you are getting $8,500. We're reducing it by 4,250 when the first instance, or when the impact came along. So we were only paying him 4,250. We then turned around and said, from because we're going to be claiming the JobKeeper Subsidy, we're reducing that salary reduction down to only $1,000, because we're saying we're getting the 3,250 per month to compensate for that. So he's still got a salary reduction, but this is only $1,000. And then from the 17th, what I then did was said, okay, we're not touching that, but I am also adding in the JobKeeper Start. So for him, what I would turn around and do is just say, and I'll just make this easy and say, from Mr. Bond, from the 17th, and I'll just say from the 17th to the 30th, and I'll play with those in just a tick. I am I'm going to say that he's getting 4,250 less than that, because effectively we're increasing it by the 3,250, and I'm putting in the JobKeeper Start code as part of that. So he's getting his extra 3,250 in this pay, and still getting PAYG on it, and he's getting the JobKeeper Start code being applied as part of that. So he will get a top-up pay on the 17th for whatever the appropriate amount is. Don't worry about the PAYG that's been calculated there. Again, I don't have a valid TFN declaration in for him at this point. Now, where's our next one? James Ingram. Here's a situation where your employee is usually paid more and you've reduced their salary, but you're unable for business conditions to increase their salary. A prime example would be you cut their salary thinking that was going to be enough. Things have got even worse, and if the subsidy hadn't come along, you would probably either have to cut their salary again or stand them down completely. So you get a hold of the JobKeeper Subsidy, and as a result of it, you say, well, great, now I don't need to stand them down or reduce it further, but I just need to now record the fact that we're claiming the subsidy for this person from this point onwards. So for James Ingram, when we go and have a look at him and his employment record, you'll notice that from the 1st of March, we put in a salary reduction, which said, okay, he's getting $9,500. Boom, we put in a salary reduction of $4,500, so that's what he was being paid as his normal thing. lucky that we're getting the JobKeeper subsidy, because now we don't have to either stand him down completely or reduce his salary again. We're going to say that we've already paid him for the month of April, so we're not actually having to pay him anything extra, but we do need to add in the fact that he's now getting the JobKeeper start point from the first period of the JobKeeper subsidy time frame or program time frame. So we add that in, and then for him what we would do is we would just go and do a pay slip for him. So this is James, and I'll just say 17th, and I'll just say 17th to the 30th, and I won't bother accruing any things because we're not doing anything. And all I'm going to do for him is I'm just going to say we're just doing the JobKeeper start code. I'll just go and pop that in like that, and that's all we have to do. I can just turn around and record a payslip for Xero to say this is how we're going to report the fact that he is eligible. We are eligible to receive the subsidy for him from that first fortnight in the JobKeeper subsidy period. So that's what we'll turn around and do for James, and it's as simple as that, nothing more to do. Now, which is this one? Okay, very similar actually to the last one. That this person is very lucky. They didn't actually lose any salary. You've just been paying them as normal, but now you need to turn around and do two things. Yes, you're eligible for the JobKeeper subsidy, so you need to put in the JobKeeper code as part of their employment record, and you need to do that nil pay slip. So it's very similar to what we just did for James Ingram, but in this instance, sorry if you get that, Stacey. So in this instance, when I go to Stacey, what I will see is, hey, she's never had a salary decrease as part of this. But what I now need to do is say that from the 1st of April, and I'll just go and put in, a number of times I've typed JobBag there instead of JobKeeper, is quite ridiculous. So I'm just going to turn around and say, great, our JobKeeper start is that, bang, thanks for coming. And that just means that when we turn around and do her salary from here on in, that'll get reported. And did I do one for her? So yes, as you can see, I've already paid her for April, right? So I don't need to pay her anything more for April. What I do need to do for April is say that, guess what, today for Stacey, I am just going to go, and I'm just going to say 17th to the 17th and get rid of all the leave entitlements. Up it will come with the JobKeeper start, and that's all I need to have on that pay slip. So that means that when I upload, well, when I approve all these pay slips and then upload via SBR, bang, all of those things are going to get reported through to the ATO and will show up correctly when you guys go to claim, or when you lodge your claim, and most importantly, the ATO will see that, and they will pay on the basis of the people who have got that code in their in the records, the STP records that you have uploaded to them. Anyway, let's go from there. Oops, and there we go. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, that gives you a good overview of exactly what you're going to need to do. I just want to reiterate, we will work with you on a one-on-one basis to help you get all of this set up. These codes, particularly the start codes, are absolutely critical that they are set up right. So hence the reason why we will be more than happy to help you get all of that set up 100% correctly and deal with any other questions that you've got. But right now, are there any questions that have come through, Liv?
Nothing yet. There's anyone got any questions? I've unmuted everyone's mics, so please feel free to turn it on and say anything you might have a question about.
Hey David, how are you?
Very well. Who's this?
It's Elsa.
Hello, Elsa.
Hey.
Hi.
Just a quick question. For how we can start registering on the 20th of April,
Yep.
but we won't know if there will be a 20% decline until the mm, month has ended, and we don't have our report until the second half of the month.
Yep.
Then how do you then register now?
Okay.
And normally, yeah.
Okay. So the first thing, just to clear up something, it's actually a 30% decline. That's the first thing. The second thing is that what they're wanting you to do, because again we've had some clarity about this, is you need to compare how you have done in the same period as last year. So if you're recording your if you're lodging a BAS on a quarterly basis, they're saying, okay, if you look back at the BAS for that quarter last year, or that same BAS period last year, or a month last year, and you see it was, for argument's sake, $1 million in turnover. And this year, your estimate of what is going to happen is that you are going to be less than 700,000 in turnover. It doesn't have to be guaranteed; it is your estimate of it, and you've got to have a reasonable basis for it. Then you are able to register because you have reasonable grounds that your estimated billings are going to be affected by more than 30%. All right. No one has got perfect foresight about what it's going to be, but if you have reasonable grounds that that your business turnover has gone down by 30% or more, you can turn around and register.
Okay, so is it like 30% for the quarter, or is it month by month, like 30% in April, May, and June?
Well, okay. Again, it comes down to what is the appropriate time frame. Now, in the descriptions that they have given us, they were talking about quarters. When you lodge your quarterly BAS, but at the that's going to be an absolute, because when you're looking back in hindsight, when you lodge, if you do a quarterly BAS and you're lodging in July for the April, May, and June quarter, you're going to know exactly what it was. But right now it's April. You've got clients who are saying, "Oh, we're not spending, da, da, da," and your forecast. Your best estimate of your forecast is, yes, we are going to be affected by more than 30%. Then you will qualify. That's as it's been described to us. It's just got to be your best estimate. And if clients are telling you they're not spending, well, you can only base your estimates on that.
Yep. Okay.
At the end of the day, though, just understand this. At the end of the day, it's a subsidy, and it's going to be passed on to your employee. It will be passed on to your employees, as to help keep them paid. But secondly, as a subsidy, it is going to count against your taxable income. All right. So, you will end up, this will become part of your tax situation come the end of the year. So, it'll all come out in the wash. But your ability to qualify can only be based on an estimate at this point in time.
Yes. Okay. Estimate. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, David. This is Zoe.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How's life in the West?
Um, yes, it's busy, but good. Thank you. The sun is shining.
Good. Yeah.
I've just got a question. Where we've had to reduce people's salaries, and I missed your first webinar because I wasn't made aware of it.
Yep.
Um, and I've now seen that you create a code for the salary reduction,
Yep.
which is not what I did. I just reduced the employee's hours as you would
Yep.
when you set someone up.
Yep.
So do I need to go back now and undo everything I've done and redo it?
Okay. The choice is yours. The reason why we came up with this way of doing it, which was to say you've got where are my kinds? Sorry. The reason we chose to do it this way and say that we want to have two different ways of recording this was so that you actually had a good record of the difference between the situation where you are reducing someone's salary versus standing somebody down completely. Right? So that's the first thing. You don't need to go back and do that. That's just something we chose to do because it meant that when you were looking at somebody's employment record, you would see exactly what had happened. So I could see, for argument's sake, for Alan, we reduced his salary by 50%, then we got the subsidy and all the rest of it. And on every single one of these employment records, we would have a forever and a day, okay, guess what, this is when we're starting this, or this is what we reduced his salary by, or whatever it may be. But the simple fact is you've still got that record. The only difference between them is that when you stand someone down, they are still entitled to their leave entitlements. If you have reduced somebody's ordinary hours, then what you're doing is you're also reducing their leave entitlement accruals to match their ordinary hours. So that's the difference between the two. So if you have actually reduced them and you're saying it's going to stay at that, then that's fine. But if it's only a temporary thing and their actual employment conditions haven't changed and you're still giving them the full leave entitlements, then yes, you should go back and change it and do it the way that we've done it. And Olivia can send you a link to the earlier presentation, or you can just ring and have a chat to David or Shaguntala or myself, and we'll show you how to turn around and do it. It really depends upon what's happened to those employment conditions and as to whether you should do that or not. Okay.
Yeah, I think I should. Most people have dropped down at least one day.
Yeah.
And yeah, they should be accruing leave. So I will speak to probably David and set it up, and maybe we've got another pay on the 1st of.
Yeah. Well, no, the other thing is, hey, and it's also really easy. It's really easy to do, right? Even if you do go down that route, guess what? If you need to, you can just turn around and say, hey, I'm going to credit out that original payslip. I'm going to do a new payslip, on the basis of how we've now set it up, and then reattach that or attach that new payslip to the payment that you've made. You just have to edit the payment and clear the previous payslip and add in the new payslip, and it will all get joined together. All right.
Right. Okay. That sounds good in theory.
Oh, it is. We did it this way. Crediting someone's payslip and doing a new one, works really well. It really dots the I's and crosses the T's, 100%, and it means that exactly the right information ends up being transmitted to the ATO as well. That's why we did it that way. That's why you can't go back and edit a payslip that's already been approved, because otherwise you could end up with this bloody horrible mess that means you transmit the wrong information to the ATO, right? It works, and it works really well.
Sure.
Okay? We'll have some fun showing you how to do it.
All right. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
It's all fun.
Okay.
Okay.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. I see lots of familiar names that I can put faces to. Anybody else got any questions? No? Okay. All right. Well, our message to you guys is, in spite of the fact that these are very interesting times, we will be at our best during this, and we will all find ways to thrive and get through this, and do so with hopefully a smile on our face and an appreciation for life. So you are not alone. You've got us here to hopefully bring a smile to your face, cajole, or add some wry humour, and we'll always find a way to help you guys to do whatever we can. All right. Anyway, take care. We'll send you an email shortly with the video for this if you need to watch it again, and you know where to find us. We'll be waiting for your call. Take care. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and may all your JobKeeper numbers be $1,500 or more. See you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.